So today we're diving into something truly fascinating. There's a new AI architecture out there, and the claim is, well, it's huge. The creators are saying it doesn't just improve on old tech, it actually solves a fundamental philosophical problem that's been bugging humanity for about, 500 years. Yeah, let's get into it.
At the very core of all of this is a single, powerful question. How do we know what we know? Do we figure out the world by going out and experiencing it? Seeing things, touching things, learning from what happens to us? Or are we born with a kind of internal toolkit, a set of pure logical rules that lets us make sense of everything from the get-go?
And look, this is way more than some dusty old question for a philosophy class. According to the research we're breaking down here, this very debate is the #1 reason we haven't been able to build an AI that can truly understand the world instead of just, recognizing patterns in data.
Okay, so to really grasp why this is such a massive roadblock for AI, we got to quickly look at the two teams in this philosophical showdown. On one side, you have the empiricists. Think of folks like John Locke. They believe the mind starts as a blank slate, a tabula rasa, and every single thing we know gets written on it by our experiences. But on the other side, you've got the rationalists, like René Descartes, who argued, no, reason is king. We start with some innate, built-in ideas. The problem? Go full empiricist and you can get stuck in a how can I be sure of anything loop. Go full rationalist and you can feel totally disconnected from reality.
This argument went on for, centuries. Then, in the late 1700s, this brilliant philosopher, Immanuel Kant, comes along and says, guys, you're both right. He proposed a synthesis. We need experience to give us the raw data, but our minds come preloaded with fixed categories like space, time, and causality to organize all that data. It was an amazing idea, but it had one big catch. Kant assumed those mental categories were universal and never ever changed.
And that catch is exactly where this AI breakthrough comes roaring in. It takes Kant's brilliant idea and gives it a massive upgrade, creating what the designers are calling a meta-Kantian system.
So, here's the absolute game-changing question. What if those mental categories Kant talked about weren't fixed at all? What if an AI could learn its own rules for thinking, directly from its own experience? What if it could not only learn about the world, but actually learn how to learn about the world, and then change those rules on the fly?
The team behind this calls the process dialectical learning, and it's basically a beautiful, self-improving loop that finally gets empiricism and rationalism to work together. Essentially, what the AI learns from experience, the a posteriori stuff, doesn't just sit there as a memory, it gets promoted. It becomes the new set of rules for thinking, the new a priori framework for understanding whatever comes next.
Let's walk through it. Step 1. The system acts like a pure empiricist. It just observes the world, taking in raw data from its environment and learning to spot patterns. No pre-programmed concepts, just information.
Then, and this is the really cool part, it takes a hard turn into rationalism. It takes a pattern it just learned and promotes it. It turns it into a brand new organizing principle, a new innate idea. So a learned experience literally becomes a rule for how to perceive the world going forward.
And this isn't a one-and-done deal. It's a constant, never-ending cycle. The AI is always refining and evolving its own internal rulebook. It's forever closing that loop between experience and reason. In a very real sense, it's learning how to learn.
So you might be thinking, okay, what does this AI actually start with then? Well, forget Kant's dozen or so fixed categories. This system starts with a remarkably minimal toolkit, just 4 basic built-in abilities.
First, it has a temporal canvas. It sees absolutely everything as unfolding over time. Second, a built-in knack for pattern recognition, a bias to notice when things repeat. Third, it has a schema machine, which is a fancy way of saying it can bundle these patterns into concepts and then update or merge them later. And finally, it's got an information compass. It has an automatic drive, kind of like an Occam's razor, to find the simplest, most powerful explanations for what it sees. And that's it. That's the starting kit.
So, what do you get when you put all this together? Well, you get something that feels truly revolutionary. By engineering a system that finally unites these two warring philosophies, the creators may have done more than just build a clever AI.
They might have actually built a working solution to that 500-year-old problem.
And the payoffs here are staggering. This could enable what some are calling alien intelligence. Imagine a rover on Mars that, instead of being told what to look for, actually invents its own concept for the beginning of a dust storm based on patterns we'd never notice. It could help us build ethical AI based on learnable concepts, like creating a suffering curve from observation. And maybe most importantly, it could give us true interpretability. Because the AI builds its own logic from the ground up, we can actually go in and see how it thinks. We can pop the hood.
This quote from the source material just nails it. The point isn't just to get more accurate predictions. The point is to fundamentally rewire how an AI understands meaning itself. Meaning isn't just a label we slap on data anymore. It becomes something that emerges from the process, something that lives in the flow of experience.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty mind-bending question. If we can build an AI that can solve a philosophical paradox that has had us stuck for half a millennium, what comes next? If a machine can learn its own way of understanding reality, could this approach unlock forms of intelligence, maybe even consciousness, that we can't even begin to imagine?